Hello and welcome to the Top Bins preview for this week's Premier League games. We're looking at Premier League Round 3. Lots of big games, lots of action already been and gone that we've reviewed in our previous videos. So go and check that out. Go and check our fantasy manager review as well. Cracking one from Dave there. He's taken a beating in that one. But we've got some fantastic stuff coming up for you in this video this week.
Looking at last week's picks, obviously week 1, we didn't know what was going to happen really, but some educated guesses, we'll say.
Yep.
Funnily enough, we've come out at
done
the
all right.
end
We've
of the
done
week.
all right.
We've
Not
done
too
all
bad.
right.
Like we've exactly matched each other for the outcome of the game, and we picked 5 of those each, and we got 1 spot on each as well.
Unbelievable. I think we agreed on 2 games,
and
we've sat there and got 5 of the winners right, or results right, and 1 exact score. So we look pretty good. Obviously, Spurs for you was the big winner with the exact score 3-1, which is a great shout. While I got the 3-0, I will give myself a pat on the back for calling the Kane goal.
Well done, mate. Yeah, excellent. That was.
And you called a big win for City, and that's what they got, but you didn't call it big enough.
No, I didn't go quite to the 6 level, and I didn't think Huddersfield would get a goal either. So,
no.
So fair play to Huddersfield for nicking 1, and fair play to City for putting 6 on. So
some odd ones as well. Certainly, you picked United to struggle with a 0-0 draw, but boy, they struggled more than that.
Didn't think they struggled as bad as that. That was a real struggle.
Well, I picked 2-0 and a clean sheet for them.
Well,
so there you
United got 2, but not quite the 3, not quite the clean sheet they hoped for.
No, and then last game of the week was my exact match, and I picked a 2-0 for Liverpool. You picked 4-0, which I loved at the time. But I was pretty happy with 2-0. Yeah,
look, good. I'm pleased with the first round of picks. Not much data to go off for the first week of the season, so I'm happy with the results. And right, let's get into it for this week, mate.
Wow.
Got the early kick-off on Saturday. It's Wolves against City. I mean, I want to believe that Wolves have got a chance in this because I got a little soft spot for Wolves.
Me too.
I think they're a good little team. They've got some cracking players. I really like Ruben Neves, but they're going to get spanked, aren't they?
Well, it's interesting. I've just been reading this week that City are actually already preparing an offer for Neves.
Yeah.
And they talked about it in the off-season as
60
well.
mil.
60 mil. Yeah. And you just bought Mahrez. But
where's he going to play?
Who knows? But I hope he doesn't go because he's the heart and soul of the Wolves team.
Yep.
There's just no way I can pick, even at Molineux, Wolves coming out of this with any kind of reputation intact. I think they're going to get torn apart.
I think this will be slightly different to the Huddersfield game. I think the crowd at Molineux are going to they're going to be a bit more at them and a bit more up and fired up for that, especially those early kick-off games on a Saturday. You get down to Boozer early, you have a few pints, and you go and get behind your team nice and early doors, especially when it's a big team like City. I think they'll be well up for it. They have got much more quality than Huddersfield have as well. I think they are shaky at the back though, Wolves, and I think that ultimately they're going to be punished for that. I'm going to go score-wise. I'm going to go 3-1 City.
It's funny. It's pretty much where I was looking, but I'm going to go you one better and go 4-1 City.
4-1 City. I think you might. I might be regretting that, but I'll stick to the 3-1 for now. A team that I think, two teams that have started horrendously, and one team that I think are going to be prime for the drop this season, Arsenal and West Ham.
Well, we're at the Emirates.
Yep.
That's not going to bode well for West Ham based on how bad they were at home.
Yep.
They shipped 4 at Anfield, and they didn't look awful, and they looked awful last week.
It's horrendous, mate.
It's really about how well Arsenal finish.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'll pick Arsenal 2-0.
2-0? Yeah, I reckon. I can't see anything but an Arsenal win in this game. West Ham look horrendous. I think Arnautovic will cause the defence problems. And again, Arsenal are shaky at the back. I can see lots of goals in this. I'm going 4-2 Arsenal.
4-2, I love it. That's tasty.
So that'll be a match of the day highlights, I think.
Yeah, it could be. That's very tasty. Gary Lineker will be all over it.
All right, go to the Cherries. Bournemouth and Everton.
Everton have just looked good. They really have.
Yep.
While Bournemouth have looked good in fits and starts, and they are at home, I just think with Pickford in goal, I think he's good for a few saves. I mean, Richarlison, can he keep it up?
Yep.
If he can, and if Walcott can play like he played, and we get Sigurdsson playing like he played last
Quality
week.
player as well, Sigurdsson.
I just think they've got the winning of the midfield in this.
Yep.
And for that, I'm going to pick them for a cheeky 2-1.
there's a lot to be said about confidence, Dave, and a lot to be said about being at home as well in football. People underestimate it a lot, and having a home crowd behind you, especially in a small ground like Bournemouth's, and being on the run that they're on. They've won their first 2 games. They've got a striker who's banging form. They look very confident. I genuinely think this is going to be an absolute cracking game. I think there's going to be goals. There's going to be quality. There's going to be talking points. I'm going to go 2-2. I think it's going to be a score draw. I think a couple of goals each. I think Callum Wilson will probably get on the score sheet again. I think Theo Walcott looks hungry and back at it again. He could have a big influence on the game. So I think we'll go 2-2 with that one.
We've got a real 6-pointer here, don't we?
Massive
for our next game.
Massive.
I mean, this is already a huge game.
Yep.
And you look at this on paper and you don't think, ooh, Huddersfield Cardiff, what a thriller. Yeah. But this could be a huge, 36 game weeks time.
Yeah.
This could mean everything.
Mate, these are the games that, I know it's the third week of the season, but these are the games that define your season if you're a team like Huddersfield or Cardiff. And both have had very, very shaky starts. All right, Cardiff got a point against Newcastle. They were lucky to get a point after that penalty miss. But I think Huddersfield, this is so big for them. They've had 2 games, an absolute horrible start for them against City and against Chelsea, and they've been absolutely pasted. 9 goals conceded in 2 games, scored 1. But this is their chance to turn it round. And I think that Wagner will get them fired up. I think he'll have them flying out the traps. They'll be pressing high. There'll be lots of energy. They know this is a cup final for them. I can see them sneaking this. The reason why as well is that I don't think Cardiff have got many goals in them. I can see this being very, very close. I'm going to go 1-0 Huddersfield.
Etheridge is going to be hard to beat.
He is.
And he's already proven that. He's been great so far. But I agree. I think, while I don't think Wagner would have set them up to lose the first 2 games, I think they would have known and been realistic about where they sit in the Premier League. And I don't think they targeted those first 2 games as games they'd take points from. This game, they would have targeted early doors and said, this is where we come at home and we show what we're made of and we set down a marker for what we're going to do. Against the other teams outside maybe the top 6. Because they will always struggle against those top 6 traditional teams. I'm with you. I feel 1-0 is probably fair, because while I feel Huddersfield have got more of a goal threat, I just can't look past Etheridge at the moment. He's been great at the back. I think he'll save their blushes for a 1-0.
Yep, cool. All right, we agree on another one. What's going on,
It's
mate?
rare. It's rare.
This is a funny week. All right, Southampton, Leicester. We talked about our boy James Maddison in the fantasy episode. We talked about him in our earlier episode this week in the review of last week as well, because he got his first goal in the Premier League.
We talked about him last week.
We just keep
talking about. But there's a reason we.
Neither of us are related to James Maddison, by the way. So if he wants to be a friend of the show, he's more than welcome to be. But cracking player. What do you think is going to happen in that game?
I've got Leicester. Southampton at home are going to be tough. They're not an easy team to beat at home. But Leicester, they've just got something about them. And Maddison gives them a certain swagger, youthful confidence. They're less of a team without Mahrez, but he looks to be saying, I'll step up and take some of that. I'll shoulder some of that burden. I'd go so far, and not just because we called him out in our fantasy pick, but I wouldn't look past him for a goal or an assist, and I'm going to pick them 2-1.
Get on it. If you haven't got it already, get Maddison in your team. Davey's calling it now. He's getting a goal or an assist or both. I think that I'm actually going to disagree with you on this one, Dave. I think that Leicester without Vardy are a different beast, and Vardy suspended for 3 games I think is going to have a massive impact. Yes, I think Maddison's top quality. Yes, I think Ndidi's had a fantastic season so far. I think Harry Maguire at the back and Kasper Schmeichel, top quality players. But I think without Vardy up front, I think they're going to lack a little bit, and I think that's going to either. I'm close to going 2 ways here. I think it could be a draw, or I think Southampton might nick it. I think there will be goals. I think Austin and Ings provide a lot. I love Charlie Austin for what he's done at QPR, absolute legend. But I also think he's a very good striker as well. Him and Ings got his goal last week. I think those two, they've got goals in them. There's potential there for Southampton to score some goals. I also think Leicester have got goals in them, and I agree with you on Maddison. I think he's going to have probably another cracking game as well. So I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 to Southampton on this one.
I like it. I like it. Back to divisive. That's what I want to see. This will be interesting.
Yeah.
Liverpool hosting Brighton and Hove Albion.
I'm not calling the same kind of upset that I called last week. I could see it. I could see something happening last week with United because they just didn't look at it against
Leicester. And the
Leicester.
Amex has got something, doesn't it?
It has.
A proper old ground
It's
style.
close. The atmosphere can really kind of intimidate you as an away player. But I think at Anfield, the players Liverpool have got, Dunk's probably missing as well for Brighton.
That's right.
Their captain, their leader. I think this. I can't look past Liverpool in this one. I think Mo Salah hasn't been at his absolute peak, but he still looked dangerous. I think that, like you mentioned in our review earlier in the week, that Keita looked good, looked really, really good. Sadio Mane's bagging in goals at the moment. I can't look past you. I think it won't be. I don't think it'll be an absolute pasting, and I think they might nick one, Brighton. I think Glenn Murray, he's an old lad. But I tell you what, he knows all the tricks in the book, mate, and he's a proper striker. I'm going to go 3-1 to Liverpool.
I'm going to disagree, and not just because I'm a Liverpool fan, but because I've seen enough from Van Dijk and Alisson to think we're going to be pretty strong at the back, and especially at home.
All right.
Our record in the back half of last season at home was immaculate.
Yeah.
I just don't see them scoring against us at home. At the Amex, I wouldn't put it past you for a Glenn Murray, and boy, he does it too often, doesn't he? But no, I'm going. I feel this is where the shackles get released. I'm going to go 4-0. Yeah. While I've already scored 4 at home against West Ham, I feel this is where the Egyptian King's going to come back.
Hello, Mo. All right, on to Sunday's games. Watford and Palace. Two teams that have had fairly decent starts. Yeah, Palace lost to Liverpool, but they look all right. Hodgson's got them well drilled and organised. And what do you reckon for this one?
Well, if you're a Palace fan, you probably thought the game against Liverpool, you're a touch unlucky with some referee calls.
Yeah.
But I don't think that. But Palace fans may. Yeah. They looked good. They frustrated Liverpool for long periods. And if you're frustrating a team with that kind of quality, that kind of pace, you're doing something right. You take that to a team like Watford, that's going to work for you. Watford, we've been saying great things about them as well. They've looked really good. I think Decore is so important. Deeney looks like he's picking up where he was about 2 seasons ago when every team seemed to want him. Yeah. I don't know who could take this.
It's a close one, isn't it? It's a tough one.
It's a tough one to pick. For me, a score draw sounds about right, and I think they'll get a couple each, 2-2.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Watford take, where they seem to have lots of players this season who can influence. They've got Pereira did it in the first game. They've got Decore in there. They've got Deeney. They've got Gray. They've got lots of interesting players in there. And I think that might prove, being at home as well, that might prove a bit too much for Palace. I do think Zaha's going to get joy in this game. It's a kind of fixture you can see him popping up with a goal or two and really having an influence. I'm going to go for another high-scoring game. I think both of these teams are capable of scoring and conceding as well. So I'm going to go 3-2 Watford on this one.
3-2 Watford.
Yeah, 3-2 Watford.
I like it. So now we're going to Craven Cottage. New Zealand's home away from home, our home in Europe. Yeah. Michael Jackson statue and all. Yeah. And we're hosting Burnley. Now, both tough starts. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about Burnley in Europe. We've talked about the need for goals. We've talked about Fulham maybe not stepping up to the plate with the money they've spent. Yeah. How do you see it?
I see this one being a very tight game. I see Fulham playing. They play a very good style of football. They're very fluid. I like the look of Joe Bryan, they signed from Bristol Rovers as well. Bristol City. He looks like a proper player.
Good game this week.
And yeah, he did have a good game. And he gets forward. He's a very attacking fullback. Like I said, I like the look of Kearney. I like Mitrovic and Sessegnon when they're on their game. I think they're very good players. I think Burnley, you know what you're going to get with them. They're going to set their stall up, especially away from home, to be compact. To make sure that they play very narrow and tight, and make sure that the ball comes from out wide into the box that they can then clear with headers and clear with their big centre backs. But I think that going forward, they've looked like they've struggled this season so far. I think that's where they're going to struggle again, and that's why, as much as it pains me to call a Fulham win as a QPR fan, I think that Fulham are going to win this game. I think that they're going to be at home. They've played well. They didn't look bad against Spurs. I think Mitrovic has got goals in him. Especially in the style of play that he plays under. Mitrovic is very much a footballing centre forward. He likes the ball into feet. He likes to bring other players into the game, and he likes to make movements off of them once they've got the ball. And I think that they can get him playing and get him scoring and confident like he did against Spurs. I think that they're going to be they're going to have a threat anyway about them. So I think they're probably going to have too much for Burnley this week, and I'm going to go for a 2-1. 2-1 to Fulham.
As solid as Burnley have been at the back in patches, I agree. I think Fulham at home will be looking for, it's a great little ground, and I think the fans will be right behind them.
They will be,
and it's going to be such a big game for them, and I think they know it. I have to say, a note on Brian. Every time I saw him on the weekend, I couldn't help think of Brian Ruiz. He had his first name back for sure. I was like, we're rolling back the years here.
Yeah. Same team as well. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Look, 1-0 Fulham for me. I think it's going to be really, really tight, but I feel like Mitrovic is going to pop up, do something, maybe not off the deck this week.
Let's hope he does, mate, because I got him in the fantasy team still.
That's right, but 1-0 Fulham.
Yeah, all right, good shout, Dave. Newcastle, Chelsea?
Well, do you pick Kennedy? Is he allowed to play against Chelsea? I'm not sure. I think he is with his loan agreement, but does he make the team after last week? My God, he had a shocker. Chelsea all day, and as much as St James's Park is a tough place to go, it's a long trip for a Premier League team to go up there.
London team to go,
Chelsea look to be, they're 6 goals in 2 games now. They're scoring from midfield. They're firing. Kante's got a new lease of life. I just think they'll win that midfield battle. I don't know if Morata will be able to score again, but I certainly think they'll get a couple. 2-0 Chelsea for me.
All right, I reckon this is going to be one of those games where Newcastle come absolutely flying out the traps. St James's Park absolutely buzzing, noise, the lot. And I think Newcastle will take the lead early doors, but I think Chelsea will have too much for them in this game. For all the reasons that you just mentioned, they've got a lot of quality in midfield. Conte is looking like he's rejuvenated under Sarri. Hazard hasn't started either game this season, but when he's come on, has been an absolute menace when he's come on. Morata's got a goal. Confidence will probably be a bit higher. Pedro, Willian, all threats. I think they're going to be too much for Newcastle defence. I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea.
3-1, tidy. Yeah. What do you make of Kepa the keeper so far, just while we're here?
I reckon he's not had that much to do. And when he's looked a little bit questionable. The Mkhitaryan goal, he got a hand to it. When you get a big hand like that to it, you expect to keep it out, and he didn't. And I think it's probably too early to judge him. It's a lot of money to spend on a keeper, and a lot of money to spend on a young, unproven keeper as well. So at the moment, jury's still out, but the little bits I've seen of him, I've not been massively impressed.
Jeez, I just picked 2-0. You're making me question that. Let's move on. Let's move on.
All right. Finally,
game of the week?
Spurs. I'd say, on paper, game of the week, right? It looks like the game of the week, so I reckon I just can't see beyond Spurs for this one. I think United, after that game, I think their defence is going to be absolutely shot. Whether he changes it and brings in Smalling or Jones, I don't know if they're ready, but whether he changes it and brings them in, they need to do something. Whether Sanchez plays in this game, I don't know where he is with his little injury that they said he had, but I think that Spurs are going to be confident, won their first 2 games. Kane scored, and like we said about Kane in one of our previous episodes, when a good quality striker like Kane is confident and scoring goals, is always a threat. And United at the back don't look up to it. So I'm going to go Spurs for this one. I reckon it's going to be 2-0 Spurs.
It's so tough. United have just had a shocking defeat.
Yep.
Away, but a shocking defeat. They've pointed fingers. They've questioned whether motivation was a problem.
Yeah.
There should be no problems for motivation at home against Spurs.
No.
There's no question these guys should be up for this game.
Yep.
But the questions in the centre-back remain. I agree. I mean, Jones and Smalling must be licking their lips saying, get me out there. Last week, the centre-backs were awful. How do you turn that around in a week? How do you light a fire under Pogba's butt and make him work hard?
Yep.
And then even if you do those things, are Spurs going to let them into the game? Spurs have got a great midfield for controlling a game. Fabulous wing-backs. Great centre-backs, a fabulous keeper, and now a striker that scored in August and probably feels like he can just go and make August his own.
The one bit of their machine that's not quite clicking at the moment is Eriksen.
Agree.
You've got to feel that he's going to click in at some point.
Hope so for my fantasy team.
But, I mean, Pogba and Fred have got to do a lot more. They've got to do a lot more than they did against Brighton, because that Tottenham midfield are going to be at it from the first whistle. And we know what Poch does. Poch gets his teams up and at you early doors, hurrying you, making you make mistakes. And if Pogba and Fred play like they did in that last game, United are going to struggle big time.
Yep, and for that reason, even at Old Trafford, and look, Old Trafford isn't the fortress it used to be. Teams can go there and take points.
Yep.
I see them scoring.
Yep.
As good as Lloris is, I see United scoring. It'll probably be a consolation 1 and a 2-1 Spurs win for me.
2-1 Spurs win, all right. So United, we might be having another roasting Mourinho episode next week. So it sounds like from our predictions that Mourinho's going to have another tough time this weekend.
Well, certainly for a bit of interest, I'd like to see it too. Well, you don't want to be banging on the same drum every week.
Yeah.
But what I'm interested to see is we've got 5 results each, 1 exact match. We're sitting exactly even.
Yeah.
Who's going to come out on top after next week?
Well, I'll tell you what, let us know what you think about the games this weekend. Pop your predictions and your previews into the comments. Give us a like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out the fantasy review video that we did with Dave. Gave Dave a bit of a roasting earlier on this week. And we also did a cracking review of last week's action. So go and check those out. And don't forget, hit up our Facebook, facebook.com/TopBinsFantasy. And we're also over on Twitter. Just check for Top Bins Football over on there. And make sure that you get involved in all the banter and all the chat that's going to go on before this weekend's game.
Memes for days.
For days, mate. Thanks very much.